Let's unbox a couple of Funko Pop vinyl figures of Grand Admiral Thrawn and compare them side by side. Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there, thanks for visiting Varykino. As a big fan of Grand Admiral Thrawn all the way back to the Timothy Zahn novel era, it's really fun to see so many different versions of Grand Admiral Thrawn coming through from different collectible manufacturers like Funko Pop Vinyl. In fact, these two actually hit my local store about the same time. It was really fun to see two different versions of a Grand Admiral Thrawn collectible at the same store at the same time, and thankfully for me, they both hit the sale table at the same time, and I was able to grab them both during a buy one get one free promotion, which was fantastic. I didn't have to choose a favorite, I could grab both, and I'm really keen to actually get them out of their packaging and see them side by side, because this one is of course the Rebels animated version and this one is the live action Ahsoka series version. There are some fun differences and I think they're going to be really cool to display out of their boxes beside each other. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, I'll take a closer look at the Funko Pop vinyl figures out of the boxes and we'll compare them side by side, but first let's take one last look at each of the boxes. Of course, I'm going to be comparing the Funko Pop vinyl figures out of the box alongside one another, but I also want to compare the boxes beside one another because there are some really interesting differences here. For the Rebels animated series Thrawn, we have a black border and a lot of yellow used on this particular design for the Star Wars logo here at the top and also for the nameplate underneath the window here. This one is number 678. For the Ahsoka series one, we have a lot of white and blue, which does work very well for Thrawn here. We've got a white border which fades into the blue for the star map design used across much of the Ahsoka series merchandise. We also have sort of a grey tone coming in here with a grey circle for the number 683 and also with here across the bottom for the name. Now this is where we get some really interesting differences. We have yellow here for the Grand Admiral Thrawn written in one line, but for the Ahsoka series one, for some weird reason, they have put Grand Admiral on top of each other and then Thrawn. I think it's interesting. Perhaps they are just focusing on the word Thrawn here. I'm not really sure why they chose to change up the printing, considering that each of these was released pretty much at the same time, very close together in terms of the numbering there. Also different, of course, we have slightly different blues here because of course they did change up the color a little bit between the animated and live action, but the image here is also larger. We have a much bigger portrait here of Thrawn's face on the front of the box compared to the live action version. And of course we do have an international special edition sticker here for the Rebels animated one, which obviously is not present here on the Ahsoka version. Another slight difference in the packaging, the plastic housing for the figure inside. So for the Rebels one, we can see that it is more of a C shape where it comes underneath the figure, up the back, and then around over the head. When we look at the Ahsoka series one, it is more of a clamshell with the front and back pieces coming together to hold the figure in place. Interesting that they are different there. Now we can see that they have chosen to go with the same text down the side this time, so it says Grand Admiral Thrawn on both boxes, the same logo, the same window cutout, and the face is pretty much the same here, though we have some subtle differences with the sculpting. Of course, the animated version has a bit more shape to his forehead there than compared to the live action version, and we can see the differences in blues there. We also have the classic black circle there with the number for each of them. Moving on to the back. The Rebels one doesn't have any other pictures of other Funkos like we see here. We just have the Star Wars Rebels logo, a lot of that yellow color coming through as well, and the title there, Grand Admiral Thrawn, and that cut off head to toe preview there of the figure design. We can see Thrawn there with his arms crossed. Coming over here to the Ahsoka series, this one we still have that head to toe slightly cut off preview image there. He doesn't have his arms crossed, he's in a different position, and for this one we have some of the other Funko vinyl figures that were released alongside him from the Ahsoka series. So we can see characters like Morgan Elsbeth, Shin Hati, and Baylan Skoll. I'm trying to collect them all as it suggests there, and I do really like that blue and white map design coming in here across the back as well. Moving on to the other side, this is always my favorite side of a Funko box. We get finally a full head to toe all the way across image here of the Funko vinyl designs, and again we can see there's going to be some really fun differences. Of course, course, the blue tone is different. The sculpting on the face is different. Even the white of his Imperial tunic is different. So really keen to see these out of the box. Again, I love that star map printing that is used across the Ahsoka series. Really cool there. We have Grand Admiral Thrawn written in a very long font. It stretches from side to side on the box here. For the Rebels version, the Grand Admiral Thrawn font is kind of squished up. It's a lot shorter, and we have just a plain black background there. Both of them feature the numbers underneath and the Funko Pop vinyl logo there across the top. And across on the top of the very top flap of the box, we again have the little previews of the faces peeking up over the top there, and we can see some of the sculpting and color differences between these two versions. I think it's really fun to have two different versions of the same character released at the same time, especially when you think about the fact that Grand Admiral Thrawn was originally an expanded universe character brought into the modern Disney era, first in the animated Rebels series and then again in the Ahsoka live action series. As a Grand Admiral Thrawn fan from the book era, it's so fun to just see quite a few Grand Admiral Thrawn collectibles for fans to add to their collection. Two different versions, you don't even need to choose. I think this is really fun. So now I'm going to open them up so we can compare them side by side out of the packaging. So I'm going to open up the animated Rebels version of Thrawn first. He looks so severe through the plastic, even though they just have sort of eyes and not else in terms of facial expressions. The eyebrows on Thrawn and those red eyes really sort of glare at you through the plastic. I think it's about time I get him out. I'm going to open up with the underside flap here, just because there tends to be a little bit of a wrinkle in the cardboard, and I like it tucked away on the underneath there. Sliding out the plastic tray, I just want to take a quick little look at the insert behind him. That looks like that is just plain black. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so let's pop him out of the clear plastic tray. Trying to be careful there, and there he is. He looks so stern with his arms crossed, and I think it's always kind of funny just how clever Funko is with creating recognizable faces when we have such a stylized design here. With these severe cheekbones and those forehead sculpting lines, I can instantly see that this is the Rebels version of Thrawn. He looks really cool. Okay, so I'm super excited to go over the details, but first let's get out the other Thrawn, and then we'll clear some of the packaging away so we can really see them side by side. So again, I'm going to open this one up from the underside. There we go. And this one has that different style of clear plastic packaging. We have the two trays, and this one has the Ahsoka series emblem there on the backing card inside the box, which is nice. Okay, this one's always a bit loud. Okay, there we go. And here we have the live action version of Thrawn there. It's really interesting. The red eyes come across really well, even though for both versions they kind of gave him black pupils, which is different to the original sort of expanded universe version of Chiss, which just had straight red eyes. And it's kind of fun that in Funko form we kind of have a little bit of that old school just solid red eye going on here for them, and we've got those subtly different blues which you can really see out of the packaging. I like the fact that they've kind of gone with a bit of a black outline around the red eyes there as well. Slightly less severe eyebrows on the live action one, but he's still got them there, quite stern. Okay, let's clear the packaging out of the way so we can really see these ones side by side. It's really fun to see these out of the packaging and beside each other. There are some really fun differences and similarities, but I gotta say, it always impresses me when Funko are able to create faces that just feel like the reference material. Somehow these each look, even though they're very stylized, like their source material. This one looks like the Thrawn from the Rebels animated series, and this one looks like the Thrawn from the Ahsoka live action. It's really funny, even though we have very little in the way of features. Just the details that they do put on there just really translate through. And of course, we've got a lot of differences here in the costumes. So I'm going to start out with the Rebels animated one. I love the fact that they have the really strong sort of facial lines included here. We don't often see them sort of changing the cheekbones and the general face shape of sort of humanoid characters in the Star Wars lines. But Thrawn has these incredible sort of cheekbones sculpted in here, and the really sort of unusual lines on his forehead because, of course, chis aren't human. They are an alien species, so they have slightly different sort of structure here, and I think that that's really fun. He's got really severe eyebrows here too, very close to his eyes, which of course are angled there as well, and he has quite a small nose there as well. I really like the blue color, and of course he also has a dark blue hair sculpt there as well. Nice tidy paint lines around the hairline there on my particular Funko, going all the way to the back. We've got some grooves carved in there because of course he's got very tidy short hair, and I really like the pose that they used for this one, the arms crossed there. So he's got his white Grand Admiral tunic here, of course. He's got a black belt with a silver belt buckle and a silver dome off to the left there, and a small holster containing a little black blaster there as well. Of course, he's got knee-high black Imperial boots. All good Imperials have got to be wearing those black boots. This one has a little bit of a matte finish on it there. We can also see that he has the gold shoulder rank details there on his tunic. Of course, he's a Grand Admiral. He's got his Grand Admiral rank badge there with yellow, red, and blue rectangles there for his rank. He also has 2 code cylinders on either side of his tunic that are accented with little blue tops to them there as well. Looks like pretty tidy painting. Sometimes when you've got a little fine detail, if you get a little bit of a splodge or something like that, it really draws your eye, especially because this is a white costume. Any kind of misapplication of paint's really going to show up. I was a little bit worried about the hands here because they are so close, but that's pretty tidy. I'm really happy with that. We've even got those really nice tidy black lines surrounding the red eyes there. I really love seeing just the straight red eyes. Very sort of old school chis there for Thrawn. I love it. And of course we've got the nice tidy metallic silver Star Wars logo there on the base. Of course he is permanently attached now. Used to be able to take Funkos off their base, but not anymore. We do have a little bit of glue spillage just here around his heels. You can see it just there, just catching the light a little bit. So I don't mind it too much, especially if it's black on black. It just kind of disappears a little bit, but it would be nice if that was not there, of course. We've just got the printed details there on the underside. He looks really cool. I love the details, the pose. I like how crisp and white his tunic is. It's very straight. They had a different style for the Rebels animated series. Thrawn in particular, his tunic was always dead straight and very crisp. So I like that that's kind of been carried on through here to the Funko version of it. So let's move on to the live action Ahsoka series, which of course we had a live action actor. So we're not going to get such straight lines on the tunic. We've got realistic wrinkles and also slightly a little bit more of a realistic color palette here as well. It's a little bit more of a cream, not as stark white as the Rebels version. I think that that's really fun. We do of course have the same costume details for Grand Admiral Thrawn, but rendered just a little bit differently. So of course we have 2 code cylinders on either side, but we don't have a blue accent on the top. We of course have the yellow, red, and blue rank badge details here, but they are actually different colors, different paint. You can see that the blue on the live action one is darker. This one almost matches his skin tone, and of course we have a lighter yellow there as well compared to the pretty much orange on the live action one there. Really interesting. The gold used for the shoulders is a pretty good match for each other there, painted very nicely on this one there. And of course we've still got the black Imperial officer style belt with a silver belt buckle, silver dome, and a black holster off to the right hip. But this time he's holding his black blaster outside of the holster there. Of course it was just kind of tucked away there. I like that we've got him holding it this time, just a bit different there. Painted very nice. It's like a gloss black here, and we've even got some silver details there just on the emitter right there at the end. I like his clenched fist here. It just kind of gives him a tension. That's really nice. And I think it's interesting that for this one we have a gloss for the boots here. These ones are sort of a matte finish, and the boots themselves are a little bit bigger, just looking at them side by side. These ones are just a little bit bigger, and I love that gloss of black. It works really well with the gloss base here. Now for this one, we don't have any glue spillage. That's very nice. And of course, we've still got that silver metallic Star Wars logo there and the printing on the underside. Moving on to the back, we can see that we've got some really nice sort of costume stitch details there and the sort of wrinkling that of course we would have on a real life costume, because of course this is referencing the live action series. And we have slightly different hair. So looking at them side by side, the sculpting of the hair in terms of the lines, looks to be nearly identical. If it isn't actually identical, the lines match up really well. But of course, for this one, we have black. It's not quite a true black, not quite as black as his boots, but it's definitely supposed to be more black than the dark blue of the animated series. We can see the differences in colors there. I like it. It's just got like a little bit of an undercolor of a dark blue in there, but I like that sort of difference in there. But the hair sculpting, I wasn't expecting the hair to be so similar in terms of those sculpting lines. It's hard to tell without, sort of doing a mathematical comparison, but to my eye, and sort of a quick comparison, the hair and that part of the head looks the same, but different, of course, because on the front, because we've got these sort of alien sort of sculpting lines here on this animated version of Thrawn, whereas in the live action, they didn't do it quite as much, so we just got a smooth forehead and we don't have those severe cheek lines. The eyebrows also in a slightly different place, still giving us quite a severe expression, but not quite as close to the eyes, because of course we don't have that sort of raised sort of brow section here to really accentuate those eyebrows there, but they look really cool. I love the color of this one. It's just such a really nice blue. It reminds me of one of my favorite Star Wars video games, Star Wars The Old Republic, where Chiss is a playable species where you can create your own player characters that are Chiss. And I love seeing some of the variations that remind me of the game, where you can have different toned blues and different colored hair. You can either go for different colors of blue or black. It kind of reminds me of some of the Chiss characters that I have created in the game, seeing the differences between these two Chiss in Funko format. These are really fun. I think, sometimes when you see two toys of the same character, you're like, oh, I don't really need both of them. They're kind of the same thing. But when I see these ones out of the box, they look so different. If you are a Thrawn fan, I think you're definitely going to want both of them. They look so different. I really couldn't choose a favorite, and I'm glad I didn't have to, that they both showed up on sale on the same time so I could grab them together for an awesome discounted price. Because as a Thrawn fan, I didn't want to have to choose. I'm trying to fill out my Ahsoka series collection as much as I can, so this one probably would have been at the top of my list, but I love Rebels so much. This one was so high up on my shopping list as well, because I love those angled facial features on this one as well. So unique for a Funko figure. We don't see that often, especially for someone that's pretty much human in terms of the face shape and structure and everything like that. I think it's really nice to see that they went that extra mile to include all of these sort of different angles and lines there. They could have very easily just given us this sort of shape with a different color. I like that we have really a lot of attention to detail, despite the fact that Funko is so stylized, especially when it comes to the faces. I like the bubble feature on both of them. It's kind of cute to see angry characters or stern sort of evil characters with the sort of cute bubble function there as well. And I like that we've got very different poses here as well. Of course, from the lower half of his body, he could look very similar just in terms of his Grand Admiral white tunic and black boots, but there is a lot of differences. I think the belt buckle is basically the only thing that's really the same. We've got different colors. This one's got different sculpting lines, creases, even the boots. This one is a sort of a matte satin finish. This one is a gloss. And of course, just different poses. And I like the color matching really nicely between the hands and the faces there as well. These guys look so cool together. There have been some really fun Thrawn collectibles coming out recently in Black series and the vintage collection from Hasbro, and it's fun to see him continuing on here in the Funko line as well. Fun to see the different costume details here, just in terms of those seam lines in his tunic. In Rebels, it goes up to the shoulders, and then for more live action Imperial officers, the back seams curve into the shoulder seam, so I like that we've got that even included here. You can see the wrinkles, because of course it's a real tunic, it's going to wrinkle. This one is that severe, straight, sort of pristine animated style. This is so fun. I'm so happy to finally have these two Funko Pop vinyl versions of Thrawn in my collection, and it was really fun to see the differences in person because I have them finally alongside each other. Really cool. I'm not sure if I'm going to have them displayed right beside each other. They might go and sort of join their respective collections, the Ahsoka live action series and the Rebels animated animated series, but for now I'm just going to enjoy having them together. I might even grab some of my other Thrawn action figures and do a little bit of a display here for Grand Admiral Thrawn, because he's a fantastic character. I love seeing such an old school legacy expanded universe character coming through so strong in the modern Disney era. He's so cool. I love seeing him continue on in storytelling and with collectibles, because it means we get stuff like this, which is just really cool. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up 2 Star Wars Funko Pop vinyl figures and had a lot of fun checking out the details and comparing them side by side. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again very soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you're a Funko Pop vinyl fan, I've also unboxed the Shin Hati and Baylan Skull figures. That video is linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as a whole Funko unboxing playlist. This is the way.